Welcome everyone to HLA webinars. Thank you for joining us today. We are delighted to have Richard Einhorn present today on assistive hearing technology and COVID tips, apps, and more. I am Carla Byers-Mullen. I am the the chapter membership coordinator for HLA, and I welcome you today. I just need to remind you to let you know that we do have a disclaimer for this webinar. This is just to let you know that any products mentioned in our webinar does not necessarily mean endorsement or favor from HLA. And please, we use this as an educational tool for you to make decisions on your own. So I will go ahead and give this over to Barbara Kelly, our Executive Director. She is here to give an introduction for our presenter. Barbara, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. We have a large crowd joining us today on this HLA webinar. During this global pandemic, HLA is bringing you as much virtual online experiences as we can. So be sure to go to our website, hearingloss.org, to find out about our virtual meetings, our free caption webinars like this one, our Walk for Hearing this spring, which will include online virtual walk day celebrations. And when we typically would hold our convention in June, since that's been canceled, we're going to offer some experiences online, like our research symposium on tinnitus and a tech expo. So please stay connected with us, and we'll keep trying to bring us all together for support, which is part of HLA's mission. These caption webinars are offered to the world, free, open to the public at no charge. So please, if you have the inclination or the means during this very difficult time, go to our website and join HLAA or consider a small donation to cover the cost of bringing this content to you. And now, the highlight. Today's featured speaker is Richard Einhorn, who is chair of the HLAA Board of Directors and also owner of Einhorn Consulting. Richard, as a composer, a record producer, and audio technology expert, Richard lost his hearing almost overnight in 2010. That's a huge blow to someone who depends on really fine hearing to do his chosen work. I first saw Richard present at the HLAA convention in 2014, where he gave the keynote address on a life in music after hearing loss. And I was awed with the tenacity at which Richard goes in search of solutions. Richard takes his expertise in technology and he combines it with a doggedness to find solutions to help himself hear better and to turn around and help others with hearing loss. So I'm looking forward to Richard's talk today and his insight about what we can do at home. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for such a, I hope that I live up to 1/10 of this introduction. Thank you, all of you, for being here. It's really a great pleasure to be here, and I would be remiss if I didn't immediately say to everybody, please stay safe, please stay healthy. If you are sick, please recover as soon as possible. If you have lost loved ones, the deepest condolences from all of us at HLAA. And please, all of us, stay at home and let's get through this scourge as quickly as possible. Let me see if I have now control over this. I do. I want to, as said, I want to give a talk to you about assistive technology during the time of this pandemic. I'm going to give you some general tips. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about adjustments and repairs. I'm going to, if you have adjustments or repairs that need to happen to your hearing devices, I'm going to explain a little bit about what to do in a pinch, and then I'm going to talk about connecting, which includes video calls and conferencing. And I'm going to promise, as much as I possibly can, to speak as slowly as I can, but given that I'm a New Yorker, I may need an occasional reminder somewhere. Please, everybody, don't use chat. Don't use raising your hands. Please put your questions in Q&A, and I promise I will leave some time at the end for some questions to be answered. You can see the Q&A down at the bottom of the screen. Okay, before we even begin though, I thought I would first give you a little bit of suggestions as to how to watch this presentation, because I don't want you to get anxious, because there will be a lot of information, but really the slides will be made available to everybody after the presentation. And this is also being recorded and it will be posted, so you'll be able to rewatch it later. So basically, all you need to do right now is to just relax, listen, enjoy the show, just try to get the general idea about what's going on. The idea is to just give you an overview. You can take a few notes if you want to, but remember, you're going to have access to the slides and to the presentation again, and you can kind of use it as a guide and as a reference to do a little bit of exploration later. And that's what you really should be doing. Consider, is anything helpful in this presentation at all? If it is, then just kind of experiment and explore with it. Go a little bit deeper into it. Be patient. Don't get upset if you don't immediately understand it. Some of this stuff can get tricky because it's weird technology. Use Google. Google is your friend, and use it to find out more information. And feel free to ask questions, including to me. I'll post my email at the end, and although I can't walk you through step by step how to set up your equipment or to give you specific advice, I can certainly give you some pointers as to where you look on the internet and some general ideas as to how to troubleshoot a situation. So please feel free to write me. I'm more than happy to hear from everybody. So let's start with some general tips. The first general tip I'm going to suggest is that you go to our website, thehearingloss.org. Hearingloss.org is our web address, and you look around. We have tons of information on nearly every subject connected with hearing health. And in specific, we have information on coronavirus and hearing loss. And all you need to do in order to get it is to click the read more. And if for some reason that screen isn't up, just go to the little box for the search above the main menus for the HLAA website, type in coronavirus and hit return, and you'll get a very nicely organized single page with a lot of links to resources. Now, there's also one more important button which I'd like to tell you about before going on to the main part of my conversation, and that is the donate button in the upper right hand of our website. Like every other not-for-profit organization, we are severely impacted by the economic slowdown at the moment, and we can really use your help. All you need to do is to click on this button. You'll be taken to the donate page. Please, no donation is too small. Please consider joining. It's only $45 a year if you're not a member. And regardless, just thank you for your support. Okay, the first tip I'm going to give is a very, very, very simple one, and it has to do with batteries. Most of us still use replaceable batteries in our devices. Some of us have rechargeables, but if you have batteries, then you're going to need a lot of them, and you really shouldn't be going to the pharmacy right now. You should be sheltering in place unless it's absolutely needed. And so among the options that you can do in order to get batteries is to join a battery club. And we have one that we're affiliated with at HLAA called the Hero Club. And if you go to the Hero Club, they will deliver a certain amount of batteries to you every month. Another option that you can do for batteries is to buy them in bulk. Rather than go to your local pharmacy where you will pay typically $1.12 per battery, you can go to an online retailer and the exact same battery will be available for under 30 cents each if you buy them in bulk. So the question then comes up, what are you going to do with all those batteries? Well, even though you're staying at home, you should be putting them everywhere. You should put them in your medicine cabinet. you should never be without batteries. Put them in your purse, put them in your sports jacket, put them in your briefcase. Also, even if you're Columbo, you should put them in your overcoats. You should put them everywhere. You should also, of course, put them in the glove compartment of your Rolls Royce. And if you don't have a Rolls Royce, then no problem, just put them in the jalopy of your choice. In any case, spread your batteries around because you really, really should never be without them. And right now, you should not be making special trips to the drugstore simply to get your batteries replaced. Drugstore trips should obviously be for prescription refills and anything else that's really, that you can't handle online. If you have a cochlear implant, consider getting an extra rechargeable battery or a third rechargeable battery. Again, you don't want to be there. Again, let me remind people not to use chat, as it has a tendency to block the captions. So please put your questions in the Q&A box and leave chat alone. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to talk about adjustments and repairs if your hearing aid or cochlear implant happens to go south. And it might. And so there are several things you can do. Most audiologists are not working from their offices right now and are not seeing clients or patients. There may be some exceptions, but every single one that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to quite a few, is sheltering in place at home. And they're seeing patients remotely through remote teleaudiology. Now, you may not want to do that if you are overly concerned about privacy, because the HIPAA requirements, the strict medical privacy requirements have been relaxed. So you can't depend upon the same level of privacy that you had before. On the other hand, everybody is in the same boat. So you might want to consider relaxing your own concerns about privacy if you have them. It is entirely your decision. If you decide to contact your audiologist, I would suggest doing so first by phone or email. If you need assistance in doing that, use your spouse or a partner or your friends or other family members. But contact your audiologist if you're having a problem. Now, the other thing, which is on this other half of this particular slide, is that your device may actually be set up to be remotely programmed. If what you have is not a broken hearing aid, but a misadjusted hearing aid, you could possibly get it, and if it's a fairly new device, programmed over the internet. And this is an example from one particular manufacturer, although many of them have this feature in so-called made-for-smartphone hearing aids, where you can fill out a simple questionnaire, send it to your it will automatically be sent to your audiologist. He or she will adjust the settings, then send them back to you inside the app, and then the app will automatically upload them to your hearing aid. Now, this sounds incredibly complicated, but actually it's quite simple. I've done it several times and it really works beautifully. As I said, this is one particular manufacturer's settings, particular manufacturer's example, but there are many others. Resound has them, Oticon has them, Widex has it, I believe Phonak has it. There are many of them that have it. Just check with your audiologist, though, to be sure that your device can do it. It could solve some problems without your having to return the device. Now, if teleaudiology is not available, as I said, contact your audiologist, describe the problems as clearly as you can, and arrange a drop-off at the audiologist's office. Typically, they will tell you to just simply leave it at the door, and they might meet you at the car wearing a mask, etc., but typically it will be leaving at the door. You can also check with the company that manufactures your hearing aid, because many of them are allowing direct returns to the factory. Now, this is something that I hadn't thought of, but an audiologist told me about. Packing and cleaning your hearing aids. The important thing here, I don't want to go through this whole slide, but the important thing here is to not overdo it. Yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and yes, there is a tremendous amount of concern about contamination. But your audiologist will or should be opening any box he or she receives from you wearing protective gear. Now, if you're concerned about that, consider placing a note in the box on the top so that your audiologist will know what you have done to clean it. Now, I've gotten conflicting answers to the question of whether or not to use alcohol, but please, please do not use Purell or bleach to clean your hearing aids in order to return them. You'll basically destroy them, and then you'll have to get new hearing aids, and it will just delay the process. So please don't use Purell on them. Save them for your own hands after a supermarket run. Now, in a pinch, if your hearing aids go down, what can you do? Here's a couple of suggestions. The first thing is use a pair of older hearing aids. They may not be as comfortable or as stylish as your current hearing aids, but they will work in a pinch. Be sure to clean them thoroughly before using, especially if they've been hanging around for a while, and be sure to have the right size batteries, which may differ from the hearing aids that you that just broke. Another thing that you can do is use over-the-counter hearing devices. This is one style of device, and many people, including myself, feel that it's really an excellent choice. Again, that's not an endorsement. There are many other ways. There are many other devices on the market, and this is one of them. This is a very different style of device. It's an all-in-the-ear device, and it actually is about half the price or 2/3 of the price of the previous device. But these could work for you in a pinch. They won't be as precise in their hearing fitting as your hearing aids, but they can be adjusted by you, and they can work pretty well. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to spend the money on those over-the-counter devices is use your smartphone, believe it or not, as a hearing amplifier. These are 3 programs that I've used and which work reasonably well in a pinch if your hearing aids go down. Petrolex has a lot of interesting features and allows you to really customize the program. It has in-app purchases which add additional features to it. Ear Machine, which is very simple to use and which was actually partly designed by an HLAA board member, Kevin Frank, is a very, very simple and very popular app. And finally, there's Listen App by Jacody. Full disclosure, I consult for Jacody. This isn't currently on the market. It was on the market. For technical reasons, it was taken off the App Store. It's going to be returning soon. And it features an opportunity to enter an audiogram, your own audiogram, into the program, and then it generates a hearing fitting that's very similar to the kind of fitting an audiologist would give. It's an audiologically valid fitting. So those are 3 of the smartphone apps out there. There are others out there, but I would be very cautious in using an app that isn't specifically recommended here. I'm going to show some more in a moment. The reason is that some of them may be too loud for people to use and could be harmful. These all are safe, and I think that you could use them well. Now, smartphone apps, when you use them, one thing is you'll need to take your hearing aids out and use a wired headphone. Bluetooth will have too much delay and won't work well. Another issue with them is, and possible disadvantage, is that they are suitable only for mild to moderate and possibly moderate severe hearing losses. If you have severe to profound problems, hearing losses, then you may not really receive much benefit from this. But especially the apps are basically free, so what's the harm in trying? Okay, here are some more apps that could be useful. I'm not going to go through them all. This list was generated by Eric Nelson, an audiologist at Weill Cornell, who who yesterday gave a talk and listed these apps as additional ones. And I think that you can safely go through this list at your own pace and to see if there's anything there that could be useful to you. An additional device, perhaps even useful if you have a severe hearing loss, is a pocket talker, which basically does exactly what those apps does, except it does it in its own handheld and very simple fashion. Now let's talk about connecting in general, and I'll be talking about video conferencing and video calling in this section as well. But before we do that, I'd just like to talk about things in case you don't know about these. There are amplified landline phones you can buy. Clarity is one brand. Panasonic also has an excellent one. There are also caption phones that you can get. Caption Call is one brand. I believe InnoCaption is another one, and InnoCaption, I guess, is a web-based one, but Captel is another brand of caption phones. Just be aware that when using a caption phone, usage is very high, so it may be a little slower than normal. Another thing that you can do to connect is to, if you know American Sign Language, ASL, is to use an interpreter, a video relay service. Just go to our website or do a Google search, and you can find ways of connecting for this. Now finally we get to video calls and conferencing, and as you can see, HLAA is in the forefront of this. Here we see Barbara Kelly talking to longtime HLAA New York City member Ruth Bernstein. Yeah, and I bet you thought this was the Jetsons. No, it's Ruth and Barbara talking over the latest technology. The only issue that you can see here is there's no captions, but we'll get to that later on. This was an early version of the technology that we're going to be discussing. So I'm going to be going through some general setup ideas and also going to tell you a little bit about how to make the most of your video calls. General setup. Every video call conferencing service does have a different way of setting it up, and I'll show you a few in a moment. The setup is often needlessly complicated, but just be patient with it. We're all getting used to this, including actually the designers of this technology. It's kind of extraordinary technology, and it's amazing that it works at all. So just be patient, especially in these early years as we get used to all this. And once you've gone through it a few times, it can be learned, and it just, you know, becomes second nature. So as I said, I'll show you a few steps. And in general, if you're using this for family and friends, if you're using it for virtual dinner parties, which many people like to do, then just settle on one or two video services. Say it's FaceTime, say it's, say it's Hangouts, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just do those and get to learn them very well. And take the time to learn as many features as you can, but go slowly on that and learn slowly on it. Get it up and working reliably first, and then find and add additional features. Okay, general setup. Some video apps will just open. For example, this is what, when I click FaceTime on my computer, this is the screen I get, and all I need to do in order to speak to my daughter is click that little icon that I've circled. And it calls my daughter, and then we're connected and we're good to go. Other apps, video apps, will sometimes send you an email like Zoom does. And here we have a typical Zoom letter. And you click that link, and then you walk through a rather incredible process. You're asked if you want to open up an app. It will ask you also to download the app if you don't have it. Once you do that, you're going to then have to click through a whole bunch of completely unnecessary and utterly unnecessary steps. And then finally, after all that, voila, you're here in your conference and you can set up. Again, be patient with everybody. Nobody knew what was necessary or not necessary to set up a Zoom, video conference. And this is the way some people do it, some companies do it, Other companies do it a different way. So I'm just going to go through a couple of troubleshooting basics for you. I can't go through it all. It's way too complicated. And besides, there's no way anybody could possibly know all how to troubleshoot every given program. Again, Google is your friend. YouTube is your friend. You can find ways of troubleshooting just simply by asking Google the right questions. But when in trouble, the first thing to do is go to the settings or preferences for the program you're using. Where is that? Just click anywhere that you see on your program that looks like it might reveal the settings to you. Click everywhere. It will eventually you will come to a settings panel, and when you get to that settings panel, you'll be able to look for the video and audio settings and adjust them. But by far, one of the most common mistakes that people make is they simply forget to turn the volume up on their loudspeakers or on their headphones. So go to your computer, go to your phone, and make sure the volume is up before driving yourself crazy with something else. Oops, went a little bit too far there. Let me just go back. So I'm just going to walk you through Zoom's video settings. Once you get to Zoom's video settings, you'll see a screen like this, hopefully with a better face. And you'll see and that will tell you that your camera is working. If it isn't, then just simply go to the camera and click on click right next to the word camera and choose the camera that you want to use. It typically will be the camera on your computer that you want to use, but if you have an external camera, choose that. Once you have the video settings going correct, then go to the audio settings. And here you'll see you have an opportunity to test both your speaker and your microphones. If you click on the test speaker, it will play a sound and you can see whether or not you hear it. You can click here and test the microphone, and if you speak into it, it will actually record a little bit of what you say and play it back to you so that you know that your sound is both happening and that it's clean. And here I show where you need to click to select the speakers that you want to use or your headphones. And down here, you can select different microphones. Again, typically you'll be using your computer microphone, but there are options that you can use. All right, so now tips for better video calls and conferencing. Okay, I'm going to go through some basic tips first. Sit close to your computer or phone, of course. Why? It's easier to see you and it's a better sound pickup. The closer you are to your microphones, the easier it is for the sound to be picked up. Speak in a normal tone, maybe a little bit slower, maybe not, depends on who you're talking to. Certainly ask people to slow down if you are having trouble hearing, and adjust the lighting for clarity. I have no visual sense whatsoever. I'm a musician, so the best I can suggest is that you Google how to light a video call. I've done so, and you'll get a nice bit of different options that you can choose from, all of who can guide you how to light your video call better. Be patient with technical problems. If they're really, really bad, and sometimes that happens, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine etiquette to just say, sorry, I'm having problems. I'll call you back, hang up, and reconnect. It's not a big deal. Now, I'd like to give you some advanced tips because that's what grandchildren are for, to help you with these advanced tips. And I want to say first, again, that you shouldn't necessarily worry about the details here. Just think of this as a general overview. Again, you're going to get access to the slides. Anybody who wants to will be able to download the slides, and anybody who wants to will also be able to listen to this webinar again at a later date. So just don't sweat it. You know, there is a lot of detail here, but just sort of listen and absorb what you can, and don't worry if you don't get it all. The first one is something that's really kind of cool that very few people know about, and that is that you can blur your background. And this turns out to be very useful for people with hearing loss. Here I am on Skype. And as you can see my, my studio right here, and it can be distracting if you were trying to listen to my voice. There are all sorts of things in the background, including a keyboard, that might be interesting. So instead, just blur it if you're on Skype, and it looks like this. And if you talk, and if the other person talks with blurred screens, it's surprisingly easy to concentrate on somebody's lips and body language, and it really, really does help. It's a tiny little thing, but it really, really helps, and it's not well known. I know that Skype has it, and Microsoft Teams has this. Other services may have it. If you know about that, I'll include it in a revised version of the slides before they're posted. Okay, another thing you can do is you can improve and personalize the sound of your audio using an app like Sonic Cloud. And just give me one moment. I want to check this time, just make sure I'm on time. So Sonic Cloud allows you to personalize the sound on your computer and also on your phone, but here we're just going to talk about computers. And what it was actually co-designed and founded, the company was co-designed and founded by another board member, Larry Guterman. And basically what you do is you take a quick hearing test, and then it automatically creates a hearing profile, which you can then twiddle and adjust and tweak as much as you like, so that the sound is good for you. It's designed for people with hearing loss, and honestly, I don't know anything else on the market that does what Sonic Cloud does. You can actually use it on phone calls. There are some professional audio apps that would allow you to personalize the sound, but Sonic Cloud is very easy to use, and so it's definitely worth checking out if you go to their website. Another thing that you can do is you can stream with some brand new hearing aids, at least one brand new hearing aid, the Phonak Marvel, you can stream directly from your computer directly into your hearing aid. Now, some made for smartphone hearing aids allow you to stream audio from your smartphone, but don't allow you to stream audio don't allow you to stream audio from a computer. The Marvel allows you to do that. And there may be others. If you know of others, please send me a link and I will update this, this slideshow. And you can find instructions to do that easily on the web. Another thing you can do is what the great Roxana Rotundo of our board, of the HLAA board, is doing here. Roxana has cochlear implants. And what she is doing is she has connected her computer to an accessory device that streams wirelessly into her cochlear implants. What she's using is called a mini mic, and she has it connected directly to the computer. Here you can see that a cable is connected to the audio out of the computer, and the other end of the cable is connected to the mini mic that Roxana is wearing. And this is very, very easy to use. And although this particular device is compatible only with Resound hearing aids and Cochlear America cochlear implants, other manufacturers have similar devices, either mini mics or television adapters that you could easily connect up to your computer to do exactly the same thing that Roxana is doing here. Another thing you can do is you can use your TV loop system, but instead of connecting it to your TV, just connect it to your computer. And Sherry Perizzoli, yet another HLAA board member, this morning sent me this slide, which I'm not going to go through because it's a little too geeky to go through, but it will show you exactly how to connect to your computer a typical television loop amplifier. You'll need telecoil equipped hearing aids, and you'll need a TV loop and some sort of loop, perhaps a loop pad. You can get all of this easily online. Just look for TV hearing loops, and you should be able to find some pretty good devices that way. All right, now I am going to go a little geeky, but don't worry. It's only for a couple of seconds and I'm only going to give a couple of tips that are even for really, really optimizing for squeezing the best quality out of your video calls and conferencing. And the first thing is use an Ethernet cable for your computer. That is, be wired. Don't go wireless. Don't use Wi-Fi if you can. If you don't know what an Ethernet cable is, then this tip is not for you and just ignore it. You can also use the 5G, if you are using Wi-Fi, use the 5G option for it when you select a Wi-Fi network to connect to. Most modern Wi-Fi routers give you a low quality, a low speed, and a high speed. Use the 5G. It is usually much faster. Another thing you can do is to do what I'm doing here. It's not very difficult to do. As a matter of fact, it's very simple to do, but it does make you look like a geek. And that's to use a headset with a boom mic. This is a boom mic. That's what she's wearing here. And the only trick I can say is put the microphone a little bit below your mouth, because that way people with hearing loss can still hear you. You can get these microphones very inexpensively for about 35 or 40 bucks. You can also pay more money if you'd like, and they dramatically reduce the background noise, which enables you to hear better. And personally, I believe all audiologists and all hearing health professionals should be wearing these. All health professionals should be wearing these when they're doing video calls. So now we get to captions, and let me preface all this by saying the following. Captions, I'm going to limit myself to captions for video conferencing and video calls only. And I just want to check my time. Again, I'm doing pretty good. I'm limiting that because that is a major use case which we have to contend with right now. And to be blunt, it's kind of a mess. If what you want to do is to call your nephew or your grandchild, or you want to call your mom and you have a hearing loss and you need captions, and you just want to do an informal call, it's a mess. Okay, the caption calls are are difficult to synchronize with video, and all of this is in, shall we say, an early stage of development. The gold standard, of course, remains CART and will for quite a while, which is captioning by a live person like Whitney today. But automatic captioning can be very good. However, at the moment, in general, you have to pay for the good ones. And I'm going to go through a little bit of detail on this so you get a flavor and a feeling for how crazy it can get, how difficult it can get. Each video service handles the audio captioning differently, and some don't offer it at all. And so use Google to find out. And now we'll go through a few examples. FaceTime, Apple's video calling product, doesn't offer automatic captioning at all, as far as I know. If I'm wrong, please send me a link and I'll correct my slides. But I couldn't find anything there. And there's no options for adding captions to the image. Skype does allow you to turn on captionings. You can do it within a session, but you can also do it from the settings by going to the calling menu and choosing click on call subtitles, and then go there and turn on captions for all phone calls. Skype's captioning is a little weird, but it works quite nicely. It captions all at once. In other words, you will say a block of text and pause, and bing, all the words that you just said before the pause will appear. Skype also has a very amusing feature, which I found out when I was Skyping a friend of mine in Australia who has, shall we say, an extended vocabulary. And certain of the words that my friend used, Skype thought was inappropriate. And so they appeared in the transcription with asterisks, which is very amusing and loads of fun to play with if you have that sense of humor. Zoom It's a little complicated, and I'm just going to show you what to do. I'm just going to show you what the options are. The instructions for live cart captioning is just simply not ready for prime time. You would go through hoops trying to set it up. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong. I did try to figure this out, and really the instructions I saw were not really for a consumer that just simply wants to talk to a grandchild. It's just too difficult. However, Otter, which is a much-loved transcription program by many people in the hearing health community, does work with Zoom Pro, Business, or Enterprise plans, but translated, what that means is you have to pay. And you also have to pay for Otter unless you are only using it a little bit. Setup, however, is relatively straightforward if you're willing to pay for it. Now, Microsoft Teams, I've used a little bit of Microsoft Teams, the captioning there, and it was terrific. Other people I know have also used Microsoft Teams, and the auto captioning is equally terrific. But we don't yet, I haven't used it enough to be able to say for certain that it's as good as it appears to be. We need, just like we need to test to make sure that a vaccine works and that a treatment works for COVID, we also need to have reasonable testing to make sure that these captions work. And at the moment, we don't have that. I have not done that kind of testing yet. However, Teams Free, the non-business version of captioning, of Teams, does not offer captioning. At least it didn't when I used it. And upgrading Teams is both complicated and expensive, over $150 a year. And there are additional expenses and additional geekiness in order to do it. So one thing that you can do is just use a captioning app with your computer. They might work for you. There is free captioning available on all new Android devices, and it's pretty good. I'm just checking my time again. But the good auto captioning that I'm aware of requires payments. For video calls and conferencing, you can use your computer for video and audio, but then get one of your apps working, get one of your captioning apps working, and place it near your computer's loudspeakers. And while that's happening, the captioning app will pick up the sound from your computer loudspeakers and transcribe it for you. And that can actually work fairly well. Here are some options. All of them for real usability you need to pay for. Live Caption, which by the way doesn't appear to be the same as Google Live Caption, which is a completely free service. Live Caption will cost you $36 a year. Otter will cost you $100 a year, but you have 10 hours a month for the free version, which might suffice for some people. Ava, which is another very, very popular captioning app, will cost you $180 a year, or you can, if you only have light use of Otter, you can use it for free. The Otter, however, has very sophisticated display. So if you're on a large conference call with a lot of people, Otter may be very, very helpful to you. So now the real question, though, I think really needs to be asked, though. The solutions are both piecemeal, and they're in all sorts of different kinds of levels of payment. And the question I have for everybody, and please write me directly if you have an opinion about this, is for people with hearing loss, shouldn't automatic captioning, even if it's not perfect, even if it's sometimes far from perfect, shouldn't it be free and easy to access on all video conferencing and video calls, especially now? I think it's a question that's worth asking, especially of this group. What we call in my online audio forums, we call asking the hive mind what the opinion is. You know, we all want to know whether or not we think this is a good idea. It seems like it might be. In any case, that's all I have to present right now. I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this. Again, we had a lot of information, but it will be available to you on the website at some point in the future. This slideshow will be available for download or for viewing on the website, and you will be able to listen to the recording again. I will update the slides if they need to be updated based on information that I get from you. I just want to thank a whole bunch of people who helped me with this, especially Carla Beyer-Smolin and Whitney Riley, who is our card operator. Thank you, Whitney. I hope I did not go too fast for you today. And finally, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. I'm going to start looking at the questions right now. Again, please do not use the chat. I am not going to look at anything in chat. It blocks the use of the subtitles. I have 73 questions right now in the Q&A. I'm going to start going through some of them. Bill Iverson asks, are there any wireless earphones with low enough latency to use with smartphones and sound amplification apps? The answer is no, there aren't. It is not that the wireless earphones have have high latency or low latency. It's that Bluetooth itself has some too much latency. Latency, by the way, is just a fancy term for delay in this context. There are no Bluetooth headphones that I'm aware of that that can be used productively as a hearing device. Now, there is an exception with made for iPhone hearing aids, which can be used in the live listen mode. The sound quality is not ideal, but that is the only one that I'm aware of. With hearing aids, you can use them with made for smartphone hearing aids and made for iPhone hearing aids, but no, I'm sorry, that can't happen. Again, I'm gonna have to go through these questions a little bit. How is it that you can wear, Vicky Pacheco asks, how is it that you can wear a headset without your hearing aid whistling? That's a very good question. And honestly, I don't know if I can answer that exactly. You can, there are basically two styles of with this headset, what I've done is I've turned down my hearing aids, turned down the volume on my hearing aids, and turned up the volume of the sound going into the headset. So with the volume on my hearing aids down, it is less likely that you will get whistling or feedback, and more likely that you will be able, and because the volume is turned up going into the headset, it is more likely that you will not get that you'll be able to hear it loud enough in your hearing aids. But you need to adjust the volume of two things, the volume going into the headset and the volume going into your hearing aids. And I'm wearing hearing aids right now with this headset, and I'm experiencing absolutely no feedback, no whistling. Again, I'm sorry, there's no way that I can answer now 92 questions, but I'm going to do there. Kim Walker asks, thank you for the presentation. Does Zoom or FaceTime have closed captioning options? Zoom does, but again, it is too difficult for a layperson to set up. You really need somebody who is prepared to really go through some complicated setup. FaceTime, as far as I know, does not. Okay, Carol Agate has two questions. I have Marvel hearing aids. When I put Otter on my iPhone, it shuts off the hearing aids. I haven't been able to get an explanation from my audiologist or the Phonak rep. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. I would continue to write your audiologist. I would continue to write Phonak. I would see perhaps somebody at HLAA. If you write HLAA, perhaps somebody at HLAA can connect you with somebody, can pass the information on to Phonak so that they can look at the problem. I would also write Otter, and I would tell them how you're using their product and ask them to contact Phonak as well. Do you know how to make the Otter captions crawl? No, I do not, but maybe somebody else does here. And if they do, please write me with how to do that. And Carol, I'll make sure that somehow or another I get the information to you. David Landsberger, hi David, asks, have I tried Verbit? Any opinions? No and no. Let's see. Somebody asks, how can you get captioning when there's an important video on CBSN? I can't answer that question about CBS News videos in particular, but I can say this, that at least on the Mac, and I'm sure it's also true on Windows computers as well, you can go to the preferences, go to accessibility, and turn on subtitles. And this will, I believe, give you subtitles on any audio and any video with audio that you see. If it doesn't, there may be a closed caption button on the video for CBS News. And if there isn't, there should be, and I would write CBS News and insist that they do that. It's also possible that the CBS News broadcast may be on YouTube, and YouTube does have captioning. I'm not an expert on this. I'll be very honest with you on captioning in general. And however, I do believe that for most news broadcasts, captioning is available. How good it is, I don't know. And regarding this presentation was not about video captioning. It was about captioning for video calls. Captioning of pre-recorded video or other kinds of broadcasts is a completely different use case. I have trouble using my Roger Penn, Elaine Brasberger writes, FM with my cochlear implant on streaming shows. Any suggestions? The best suggestion I can give you at the moment, and again, please do not use chat anybody, I'm ignoring it. And please, it blocks the captions, so please don't use it. I'm having trouble using my Roger Penn FM with my cochlear implant on streaming shows. Any suggestions? Yes, get it as close as possible to the speakers as you can. If that doesn't work and you can precisely explain what the problems are, please write your audiologist, please write Phonak, which makes the Roger Penn, and ask them for help. There's very little else that one can do without getting in touch with the manufacturer. The Roger Penn is actually a fairly simple to use device in the sense that you just hold it and you point it. You can turn it a few different ways to get different kinds of features in it. But aside from doing that and getting it close to a loudspeaker, I don't know what more else we can give you. I can give you for help. Robert Broker says that this information is overwhelming. I totally get it. That's why the material will be available later for you to look at. He suggests a conference call related to the issues of seniors who even have difficulties with hearing aids. I agree. I think that's a great idea. It's now officially passed on to staff. What is your opinion of using Bose earphones for a one-sided hearing loss? Says Claudia, asked Claudia Kolnar. I have a one-sided hearing loss. It is, and I have used Bose earphones. They work reasonably well as long as you can return them, as long as there's a return policy. What's the harm in picking a pair up if you can afford it? They're available online, I believe from Amazon, but definitely from the Bose website. Eric Nelson I'm very honored that Eric, who's an audiologist at Weill Cornell, is on this call. He says that he has given out the email of his Phonak trainer. So if you have a Phonak Marvel question, I've now copied the email of the Phonak trainer that Eric has posted. And if anybody wants to, if anybody has a Phonak Marvel and has questions, email me and I will send you her name and contact.
Richard, I just need to remind you there's 5 more minutes, okay?
Sure. Eric has also updated me with some information on the Roger pen. The Roger pen can be connected directly to the TV for streaming to patients' hearing aids. So that means that if you have a Roger pen and you have a compatible hearing device for the Roger pen, you can connect it directly to your TV, which means you can also connect it directly to a computer. You need to have the proper cable, but it can be done. Let's see. Yes, Peggy Ellertson says the same thing. So she has done exactly the same thing. Peggy is another board member of our HLA board member, and she is a very, very enthusiastic user of this of this technology. Let me see if I can go back again and do another pass of the questions for some of the ones I missed, and I'm very sorry. Adelaide Zabriskie says, can I put an app on a laptop? Columbia doctors do telepath on my iPad or iPhone, but I use Otter, and also the iPad does not have as good a speaker as my laptop. The answer is yes. I don't see why not. Columbia doctors, however, Columbia doctors may use a proprietary telehealth system. I don't know what they use. I would ask them if you can do that. I would say almost certainly the answer is yes, but I would definitely check. Let's see. Judy Freeman asked me if I can recommend 1 to 3 online retailers for hearing aid batteries, plus quick and reliable service. I think I feel a little uncomfortable saying that because there are many that are competitive. But if you look at the obvious choices for online retailers of devices, of merchandise, there are some obvious names that come up immediately, and just search for hearing aid batteries and search for bulk hearing aid batteries. And sooner or later, you'll come across ways of finding ways of buying batteries in bulk of 80 or more. Chris Batruni asks, how do you use the app if you have no hearing aid on? I assume he means the hearing amplifier apps. You need to use wired headphones. You need to use wired headphones. You could also try, there's no real other way to do it actually. If you don't have wired headphones, earphones, you can pick up a pair of excellent earphones for about $30 these days. You can even get them cheaper if you know where to look and how to look. There are some really good brands that are cheap. There are, again, how do you know where to look? You do Google searches, and you need to just continue to do Google searches until you understand that. There are a few recommendation sites that might be useful for you in your search. CNET, that's C-N-E-T, might have some good recommendations for headphones and earphones. So might Wirecutter, which is the New York Times website. So might Consumer Reports. All right, let me just see if there's one more question, and then I think we should wrap it up. I think it's 3 o'clock. So shall we? So Carla, shall we stop? Carla? Hello?
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you, Richard, for Thank you so much for your time today and your informative and very humorous presentation. We definitely needed it in this pandemic that we're going through. Apparently, this is a very hot topic, and there's a lot of questions. I think we had 125 questions on this webinar, so I have a feeling that we may need to do some follow-up or do another follow-up webinar just on questions and answers, possibly. So it's something to think about. I just wanted to thank you for the presentation has been recorded, and I thank you all for joining us today. We will be posting it to the HLA website at hearingloss.org probably within the week. And hopefully we will maybe try to address some of these questions as well. And we do have, I think, emails attached to the presentation, so we will try to respond to the question and answers if we possibly can. So I thank you again for joining us today. Please be safe and please be well and have a good day. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.